Hey everyone, welcome to Ian and Friends. I am FloBikes Senior Editor Ian Dille.
And I'm Michael Sheehan, Ian's friend. Today we witnessed the unveiling of the 2019 Giro d'Italia route.
The moment we've all been waiting for. Exciting presentation. Chris Froome and Elliot Viviani were there on the stage, and this route, let's get right down to it. For me, it's exciting. I mean, a route doesn't make the race, the racers make the race, but this has everything the Giro needs to be another phenomenal Grand Tour.
Yeah, it's no secret, we love the Giro here. We think that they do a fantastic job every year of just creating a dramatic, exciting, explosive race, and 2019 looks like it'll be nothing different. The words of the Giro organizers, there's going to be 7 medium difficulty stages, 5 high difficulty stages, and 3 time trials. This is really the big difference between the Giro and the Tour this year, is the Giro is going to attract some time trialing talent.
Yeah, you know, what were we looking at? 57 kilometers of individual time trialing at the Giro to only like 24 kilometers of time trialing at the Tour de France. I mean, if you're a world-class Grand Tour rider, a world-class time trialist, the Giro is kind of the Grand Tour for you. It was really interesting with the Tour presentation a couple weeks ago. They really, were pretty open about the fact that they built a route to try and break Sky's dominance, potentially put a French rider on the podium, if not the top step next year.
But they didn't do that. Well, that's the exact opposite of what they did.
We'll see. I mean, it is true. I mean, with the team time trial at the Tour, no team time trial at the Giro, to me, that's one of the big differences. That's an event. If you're trying to break the stranglehold of a super dominant team, a team time trial is just an opportunity for the best team in the race to put 3 minutes on the rivals. So.
Yeah, so let's look at what this means for who the rivals are really going to be. Tom Dumoulin, he had said prior to the Tour de France route announcement that he was really going to gear his entire 2019 season towards a Tour de France victory, bettering his 2018 second place. But now that the Tour and the Giro have announced their routes, I think that he is kind of scratching his head, because for my money, the Giro in 2019 is basically built for Tom.
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty circumspect after the Tour presentation. I think his, paraphrasing him, but he was basically like, this might not be a Tour for me. So I'm sure he's looking at the Giro route and wondering, if he can go win the Giro again. We were talking earlier about how what's better, getting second or third at the Tour de France or winning the Giro d'Italia. I think these guys are looking at potentially winning the Giro d'Italia as way better than being on the podium at the Tour de France. So
I'd have to agree. Another rider who is going through this calculus right now is Geraint Thomas, winner of last year's Tour de France. He will, for all intents and purposes, be going as a very high-ranking support role, but a support role nonetheless of Chris Froome at next year's Tour. So he is already thinking about a Giro Tour double where he could take leadership at the Giro. He has attempted this before in 2017. It didn't work out for him. He, just straight up said that the Giro feels like unfinished business for him, and I think that this route looks really, really good for Geraint.
Thomas may also be facing competition from in his own teams. Similar to the Thomas, Froome conflict that we saw at the Tour this year, because Egan Bernal is scheduled to ride the Giro d'Italia, and the form we saw him come back from his serious injury, racing in Italy at Lombardia, Milano, Torino. He was flying, just on fantastic form. So he could very well likely be a contender at the Giro d'Italia in 2019. Let's get into the exact stages and kind of what makes this year's Giro special, what sets it apart from previous years. It really starts right off the back with the individual time trial in Bologna. 8-kilometer time trial. It's 0.2 of a kilometer longer than an official prologue, which has to be under 8 kilometers. And Michael and I were actually just in Italy, and we went to Bologna and rode this time trial, and it's a really special route. Not only is the city of Bologna just an amazing, beautiful city, you know, we'll start there in the square, but then, you know, the climb to the Cathedral di San Luca is really just a beautiful climb, and also a real sting in the tail.
Yeah, do not look at this opening time trial thinking that it's going to be a small, minimal affair. This is really a stage from day one when somebody can lose the GC. If you show up with bad legs, the final 2 kilometers at this stage, it's all uphill. It's nearly 10%. It's properly hard. It's a hard climb. It's short, but it's hard. You know, you come into this race not on flying form for this time trial, you could be looking at a deficit of a minute plus.
Yeah, and the other cool thing about the start in the Emilia-Romagna region and then the return to the Emilia-Romagna region at the end of the first week of the Giro before they head north into the mountains is it really sets, you know, this first 10 days of the Giro up for exciting racing, you know, kind of sawtooth profile stages in the Apennine Mountains that, you know, I think really lend themselves to open racing. We'll see if we actually see a breakaway this year. I think there was, like, you know, 1 or 2 breakaway wins last year, but it'll be an exciting first week. You know, the second stage where they're heading right across the Apennine Mountains into the Tuscany region. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting first week.
Yeah, super unpredictable racing on tap. We really get into the meat of the race in stage 13, stage 14. That's when we hit the high Alps. Stage 14, for my money, is going to be the first really major hard test for the riders. They're going from St. Vincent to Courmayeur. This is a brutal stage. We have 5 categorized climbs in 131 kilometers. That is not a long distance. There's pretty much not a single stretch of flat road throughout this entire stage. Yeah, big loss is probably going to start out for GC riders starting on stage 14.
Yeah, this stage 14-15 weekend, the third weekend of the Giro d'Italia at the end of the second week, is really the highlight for me of this route. Not only do we have you know, the exciting 131 kilometer mountain pack stage to Courmayeur, but then the next day they're basically doing Lombardia, the 5th monument. The final 80 kilometers goes over the Sermano, the Gisalo, the Civiglio, and finishes in Como. I mean, it's going to be like a one-day classic, and it's going to be a totally wide, you know, a wide open race where, you know, the classics riders and the Grand Tour riders are really facing off against each other.
Yeah, iconic stage, no doubt, on stage 15. For my money, though, stage 16 is what I am most excited about. We can go from Levere to Ponte di Legno, and 2 of the most iconic mountains in the world, certainly in the Giro d'Italia, are going to be on this stage. The riders are going to, well, it's an uphill start, I should say. We have 2 climbs right off the gun, and then we hit the Cima Coppi mountain, which is the highest point the Giro reaches in any given year. This is going to be on the Gavia. You may know the Gavia from the 1988 race where Andy Hampsten won in a blizzard, went on to win the Giro d'Italia that year. It is, yeah, going to be very dramatic. There could be snow, all sorts of conditions. It's a brute of a mountain, and then they come off of that and have to climb up the Mortarolo, which is an entirely different beast. It doesn't get up to the same high altitude, but it is just so steep. This is going to be a huge stage for the Giro.
Yeah, this is the one stage that Chris Froome pointed out as the stage that may make or break the Giro d'Italia this year. You know, we saw him last year you know, on a similar Queen stage, really, you know, go for it early on the Cima Coppi climb of the Finestre, and we could see something similar. You know, what's interesting about this stage, you come off the Mortarolo, and it's a long ways to the finish. So if the race opens up on the Gavia, there could be huge time losses by the time you get over the Mortarolo and then, you know, the flattish run-in into Ponte di Legno. So, yeah, it's going to be a huge stage. And then stage 20, again, another giant mountain stage with 1 day to go to the finish in Verona.
Yeah, we're going to have 4 categorized climbs here, a very substantial finishing climb as we go up to Monte Avena. And this is going to be the final bid for the climbers. We have a stage 21 time trial. So really, if you're a climber, if you don't have the confidence in the time trial to finish off the race, you know, got nothing to lose today. You have got to go for it on this final stage 20.
Yeah, and only a 15-kilometer time trial on the Classic World Championships course in Verona. Not a super easy time trial, definitely a good climb and descent back into Verona, and then a finish in the historic Roman stadium, 2,000-year-old stadium. It's really just going to be a beautiful race. Before we wrap up here, I want to make a personal plea, something that was bandied around during the presentation, that this maybe will please be the first year that Peter Sagan comes and does the Giro d'Italia. We saw him extend his classic season last year to include Amstel Gold, so it definitely shows he's open to changing his schedule. You know, he did the Vuelta this year for the first time in a number of years, and yeah, Peter Sagan at the Giro d'Italia would just be phenomenal.
It's time, Peter. Come on. Well,
we'll see you there in Italy.
Yeah, you know, we're going to have all the action on FloBikes. Stay tuned. We're going to be providing a lot of coverage for the 2019 Giro d'Italia. Please tune in.
Yeah, watch live and on demand on FloBikes 2019 Giro d'Italia.